Hey, friends, and welcome to week one of the Sweater Weather Sampler. I am Emily with Patchwork Revival, and I have the honor of kicking off the 2025 Sweater Weather Sampler Sewalong with my block, Little Leaf. Here she is hanging behind me. I'm actually in the middle of sort of finishing assembling my final quilt top, so I had to sort of hang her a little bit awkwardly here, but I hope you can see well enough. Um, we'll talk about a couple of quick tips and tricks for my blog. But before that, we're going to jump into just a quick overview of some of the tips and tricks that I have for the sampler, the sew along as a whole. Remember to check out that welcome video. You got it in your welcome email. It's kind of a general overview, lots of tips, lots of tricks. We also have that linked in a post on the Facebook group. I'm sure we can post it again, or you can just go to YouTube and search Sweater Weather Sampler 2025 and something will come up. It'll be there. I'll link it in the show notes to this week's video. That way, if you need a quick reference, you can just go click on it. But I highly recommend watching that. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail compared to everything I'm going to kind of gloss over in this video today. So we're so excited that you're here sewing with us. This is week one of the Sweater Weather Sampler, and I felt a little bit nervous kicking off this week. I don't know why. This is the first year that I have been the kickoff. And I just want to welcome everyone. I want to just take some time to say thank you for being here. We already love you guys so much. We have been active in the Facebook group. We've seen all of you. I know there's people out there watching this video who may not be in the Sweater Weather Sampler Facebook group. I myself am not a big Facebook user. I'm trying to use it a little bit more for my Patchwork Revival stuff. But I am on Facebook a lot when it comes to the Sweater Weather Sampler because I think it's so fun to be in the group, to see everybody's work. I feel like that's where we really get a good sense of our community and our fun times that we're having. So if you haven't joined that Facebook group, I highly, highly recommend it. Remember that every week for every single block, there's going to be an Ask the Designer post where you can post a question if you have anything that comes up, whether it's a technique, a pattern question, that sort of thing. You can pop on over to the Facebook group, ask your question in the Ask the Designer Facebook post. It's a great way to kind of crowdsource, try to get quick information. You know, as designers, we're going to be checking in there really frequently. We try to have somebody in that Facebook group popping in and out throughout the entire day, but it's just not always possible to get an immediate answer. And I know you guys are so excited to be sewing along and making these patterns. So you can always check there and just kind of see, maybe even before you start your pattern if you need to, what are some of the trouble points people are having? Does anybody have a great tip, an awesome idea? Has anybody already asked the question that you have when it comes to making that week's particular block? So check that post out. Join the Facebook group. That's all I'm going to say about that. Secondly, another point in your welcome email, you had several resources. These are like PDF resources. We had a fabric guide, your master cutting label set that you could print out if you want, the fabric swatch sheet that has been really popular this year. I think it's such an awesome idea. Just remember, you can print those out. You can reference those at any time, save them to your desktop so they're easy to click on if you need to. However they work for you, that's how you should use them. I want to point out to you guys, though, that you need to remember on the fabric guide that there are some labels at the bottom that have particular pieces that you need to cut out sooner rather than later. And by that, I mean, just go ahead and do it this week. Little Leaf comes together really quickly, so you're going to have a lot of time to just make a couple extra cuts. Cut those labels out. They're for their bigger pieces of background fabric specifically that come in later blocks in this year's sampler. The blocks are labeled on the label. It's for Rustic Retreat and Autumn Outpost weeks 8 and 9, I believe. So just go ahead and make those bigger cuts, get those done, label those babies, set them aside for use later in the sampler. We know that you guys are going to have enough fabric, but it's always one of those things where when you get towards the end of the sampler, you may run out of bigger widths of fabric that you might need to make particular cuts. So we wanted to make sure, just so you guys have all the confidence in the world that you're going to have enough fabric, particularly of your background, go ahead, make those bigger cuts that are listed on your fabric guide that is found in your welcome email. Speaking of fabric and optimal usage of your fabric, remember to save your scraps. Even these tiny pieces, I mean, these are some that I've had left because obviously I finished my blocks and I did have these tiny things left. I didn't use them all, but I did use some of them. So it was really nice to have these. Our fabric requirements are written with the assumption that you are going to check your fabrics scraps, like your fabric scraps from the week before, see what you may have, see what you may be able to get out of there before you go and hack off a hole with the fabric strip. Just remember, when it comes to using your fabrics optimally and efficiently, check the scraps first, because there are some little pieces that you're going to be able to use and just get from your scraps rather than having to deal with a whole new with the fabric cut. Finally, I want to remind you guys, we have a supply list. You guys have gotten that with your welcome email. You should have. Pretty basic stuff. There is stuff on there that is absolutely essential. You need it. You're going to have it. You're going to want it. It's a lot of really basic quilting stuff. So a ruler, a large cutting surface. Remember that these blocks finish at 20 inches by 20 inches. That means before they're finished, aka sewn into a full quilt top, they're going to finish at 20.5 by 20.5 inches. That's the unfinished block size. That is a big block size. So if you don't have a large cutting mat, some of these cuts of fabric are going to be a little bit tricky to make. That might be something that I would just 10 out of 10 recommend. You've got to splurge on getting a big cutting surface. Other than that, you may want a ruler of a particular size so that it's easier to make a big cut. Remember, you can always fold fabric and cut 2 layers at once. Get you a fresh rotary cutter blade. I would go ahead and put a fresh needle in my machine because you're going to be so excited to sew. You don't want to have to deal with that. Just get it all done and ready. For the pattern delivery this year, remember that your patterns are coming on Thursday morning. This is my pattern, Little Leaf. Your pattern will look like this. It will come in your email. So whatever email you registered with, you will get an email every week. And every week your pattern is going to be attached to that email. It's a little bit different than years past. We were hoping that this would make pattern delivery easier and more streamlined, just because, bam, click it, there it is. I would recommend going ahead and saving the pattern. You paid for these patterns. You paid to participate. We anticipate them being available for the lifetime of our, email account that we have with our email service provider as the 9-Patch Quilt Collective, but we're not in total control of what they do. So if you want to truly have lifetime access, I would just download this onto your desktop. Have it there. Easy peasy. And I don't know why I keep saying download it to your desktop. That's just where I download things because it's easier to find. Download it to wherever you'll be able to find it quicker. I don't. Little Leaf. Let's talk about Little Leaf. Little Leaf is a pattern based on a traditional block design. That's my favorite kind of design, is kind of a traditional block design made modern. So I could have just done half square triangles and squares, but I wanted to make triangles out of triangles and squares out of triangles. This is what I came up with. We're starting the sampler with this block because the sampler is designed to be a skill building project. That means every week there's going to be new techniques or different techniques or a new tip or trick that you may not have tried. It doesn't matter if you've been quilting for 27 years or 27 minutes, you're going to be able to make these blocks. That is our goal. And so we tried to start with some sort of foundational blocks and techniques. This block is made almost entirely of half square triangles. Half square triangles are something that most quilters have made about 6 billion times after they've made a quilt or two. You will love them, you will hate them. Most people by now, if you have any experience quilting, think, I know how to make half square triangles. I know how I like to do it. And I know how I like to do it. But this block and the construction of this block uses 3 different methods for making half square triangles. Why would I do such a thing? Because I wanted to make this something that was helpful for people of all quilting levels and abilities and skills and likes and dislikes. Well, I probably can't cover everyone's likes and dislikes. I'm not even going to pretend like I can. But I wanted to be sure that if you have never quilted in your life, you are going to walk away from making this pattern with a foundational skill, and that is making accurate and efficient half square triangles. I think I accomplished that mission. If you need more than just generic instructions, like in my pattern, I walk you through half square triangle construction and the different methods. I have diagrams, pressing instructions, trimming instructions, all the things. But if you're a visual person and you prefer to see video tutorials, I'm going to make video tutorials of the 3 different half square triangle methods. It's not going to walk you through the entire pattern, but it'll walk you through each sort of method that I outline in the pattern for making half square triangles. Things that I liked to have on hand for making my block when I was making it. My printed out labels, I had my master labels ready to go. I keep them in my pillbox. Love that. I also have this straight edge. This is a marking edge, and it's a Fons and Porter like 1/4-inch ruler. So I use this a lot when I'm marking on a diagonal because it's pretty long and there's some pretty big squares. So you need a long straight edge and something to mark with, to mark. Starch is going to be important. We use a 4 at a time method, which means you're going to have some bias edges. Refer to the pattern or the tutorial videos if you're kind of like, what the heck is a bias edge? If you know what a bias edge is and you're familiar with working with them, you will know that you're going to need a starch. You don't have to do anything. I would recommend it. And then you just handle them with care. But I like to use Best Press. I know it's a starch alternative, whatever. I sometimes use Faultless also, like go to Walmart, get cheap starch. It doesn't matter. Just you may need some starch, and starch will help you with accuracy. When it comes to things to focus on this week, I want you to focus on enjoying the process because this is about having fun, trying new things, and learning new things. Even if you're out there thinking, this is so dumb, I could make all these half square triangles using the 2 at a time method, and I would have very few left over, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's going to judge you for that, and nobody will ever know. But I really, really want to challenge you to take the time to work through all of the steps of the pattern and try each different method. Maybe there's one you haven't tried. Maybe there's one you have tried in the past, but now you've quilted a little bit more. You have a little bit more experience. You can just crush those bias edges and not worry about stretching them or warping them around. Give it a shot. See if you like it. And maybe next time you're working through a pattern that needs 4 half square triangles, you can just whip those babies out 4 at a time and be done. Other things that will help you with accuracy, a 1/4-inch seam is really, 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 really important to accurate piecing. There is just no way around it. Some patterns are going to call for a scant 1/4-inch seam. Some patterns are going to call for just a 1/4-inch seam. I tend to sew on the scant 1/4-inch seam side of things. So basically, I have a presser foot, I have my 1/4-inch seam, I know how to do it. And then I just sort of imagine, I just want to be about half of a thread's width scant. right inside, right smaller than that 1/4 inch seam. And that's just how I sew all my seams. Um, this year, I think I marked a turning point in my quilting career because all my blocks were basically exactly the same size and exactly the right size. And it felt so good. And I know it's because I have really honed in on my 1/4 inch seam. The other thing that's going to help you a lot with accuracy, if you're new to quilting, you may not quite pick up on this. So I'm going to just tell you the secret: cutting. You have to cut accurately to piece accurately. You're literally cutting your pieces. If you're not cutting accurately, you can't piece them accurately. So really take your time. The best ways to be accurate are to take your time and get a nice fresh blade on your rotary cutter, because that helps you just slice right through that fabric, and get you a good ruler and good lighting where you can see what you're doing and actually line up all those little ruler marks with the edge of your fabric. Even if you're just off a tiny bit, it can mess you up. So mistakes compound on top of one another when it comes to quilting and sewing in general. So take your time, start from the basics, cut carefully. That's all. Basically, every width of fabric cut that I make, I look very carefully at it. And frequently, I will square it up, meaning I will line up my ruler along the bottom of my width of fabric, and then I will cut a straight edge, a new straight edge, so that I know that is squared up and it is fresh. Um, Another thing is I try to make really sure that I don't let my ruler slip around as I'm cutting. Sometimes you'll have a little bit of pressure and you'll kind of veer your ruler like this. It's never going to look that, it'll just actually be just like an eighth of an inch. But if you do that every single time you make a width of fabric cut, over time, you're going to have a 1/2 inch off pretty quickly. So take your time, cut carefully. Um, Make sure you have an accurate 1/4 inch seam. If you don't, use a seam ripper. If you're not happy with your 1/4 inch seam, get your seam ripper. Use it. Mine was hidden under a bunch of fabric because I use it constantly. This is my friend. I do not shy away from the seam ripper. I do want to make sure that everybody out there understands this is your quilt. Nobody's going to be judging it. Well, we have had some people submit their sweater weather samplers to the county fair and win blue ribbons, by the way. That's awesome. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to make a show quality quilt. You just have to make a cozy quilt. And we want this to be enjoyable. We want you to like what you're doing. We want you to like what you make. So we want you to be successful. But everybody is going to just have to let mistakes go. I know I did. I mean, I have some mistakes in here that I'll share with you as we go on. I'm going to share those in the Facebook group because I think it's kind of fun to see people's mistakes or bloopers or things like that. So, nobody's perfect. And this is all about enjoying the process, not striving for perfection. This is all about community, not competition. So be sure that you're checking in with the Facebook group to pick up tips and tricks where you can. Be sure you're asking the designer in the specific Ask the Designer Facebook post every week if you come up with questions. I would also recommend just going and checking that, reading through the comments just to see what people have come up with. You might find a cool tip or trick in there. Who knows? Um, have fun. This is sweater weather, y'all. I'm so glad it's finally here. I really want to see what you all come up with. I want to see all these beautiful fabric pulls coming together to make your own little leaf block. So if you're on Instagram, be sure you're sharing your work using the hashtag Sweater Weather Sampler 2025 and hashtag 9 Patch Quilt Collective so that we can see them there and share them. And also be sure you post your block on the Facebook group. That's always so fun. And I love seeing people's work. And I know y'all will too. I think that's all I have for you guys. Those are all the tips and tricks that I have. Nothing crazy, nothing groundbreaking, just a simple challenge to try something new. Try the 3 different methods. I know, you probably have your favorite way of making half square triangles, but this is your chance to dive in, try something new. And even if you've been quilting for a really long time, this might be a really cool way you learned a way to teach somebody that wants to learn how to quilt. Have fun making Little Leaf. Happy fall, y'all, and welcome to sweater weather.